All right, let's get into it. Today we're going deep on this Reddit thread.
Yeah.
It's called, "What's the male equivalent of why do women's clothes not come with pockets?"
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, it's all about those like everyday fashion frustrations that men face.
I love it. It's interesting because it's not even like high fashion. It's like the stuff that guys wear every single day, and they're like, this is so poorly designed.
Exactly. And the top voted comment jumps right into a scenario I think any guy can relate to.
Yep.
It's this toilet bowl predicament.
Mm-hmm.
And let's just say the commenters get pretty graphic.
Interesting. So are we talking about the size of the bowl or the...
Yeah, like the shape.
Okay.
So non-elongated toilet bowls.
Makes sense.
Like why?
Why are they still a thing?
It's so fascinating to me because I think something as mundane as toilet bowl design,
Yeah.
reveals an assumption about the average user
Yeah.
that non-elongated bowls are fine for everybody, which
Yeah.
they're clearly not. And one guy even shared a story about getting blamed for peeing on the floor because of like the splashback.
Oh,
But beyond the humor, it makes you think, why are so many public restrooms still using these like outdated designs?
I think that's a really good point. And it raises the question of how design standards are set and who are they leaving out?
Interesting.
If we connect this to the bigger picture,
Hmm.
could this be a microcosm of how men's needs aren't always prioritized?
Food for thought. All right, this next one, the tall and fat fallacy, had me laughing out loud.
Okay.
Apparently, clothing designers think if you're a tall man, you must also be wide.
Right.
And if you're a shorter woman, you're automatically petite.
So interesting.
And like what?
It completely ignores the nuances of body proportions and that people come in all shapes and sizes regardless of height.
Yeah.
Imagine the frustration of like a slender 6'4" guy trying to find pants that fit.
Right. Or like, I can't tell you how many times I've seen a friend where like a shirt fits his chest, but it's like swimming around his stomach, and it looks like a dress because it's so wide.
Yeah.
And you had brought up something interesting earlier about maybe a deeper understanding of textiles would even help with this.
Oh, for sure. Think about suit fabrics.
Okay.
So many men suffer through summer weddings in these really heavy suits.
Okay.
When there are fabrics like tropical wool that have a looser weave, but a high thread count that can be both formal and breathable.
Now, that's an insight I wish I'd had before my cousin's outdoor wedding last year.
Oh, yeah.
Remember that anecdote I told you about the groom who looked like he'd just run a marathon?
Oh, right.
He was drenched.
Drenched.
And it's so funny because that image perfectly encapsulates what so many men find themselves in that sauna suit situation.
Holy.
And it even ties into the fact that workplace dress codes are often designed around men in suits.
Yeah.
Which then leads to offices being freezing for women.
Right.
It's so interesting. So we've got design flaws, we've got sizing inconsistencies and temperature disparities.
Yeah.
I'm sensing a theme here. All right, this next one is almost comical. It's
Right.
the sports surf California phenomenon.
What is that? The sports surf California phenomenon.
Yeah, so like the men's shorts that feature like logos and designs of brands that don't even seem to exist.
Oh, yeah, like the made up.
Yeah, it makes you wonder who is designing these clothes and for whom.
Right. Who is the target audience here?
One commenter even joked, it's probably wives buying these shorts and then men have very little choice in the matter.
Oh, so funny. Maybe there's like a market for minimalist logo-free options.
Maybe.
That's funny. Speaking of mismatches, though, let's delve into the world of men's hygiene,
Yes.
which the Reddit thread calls the marketing mystery of men's hygiene.
Get ready for some serious head scratching.
Yeah.
This section was filled with complaints about the over-the-top branding and confusing scent descriptions on men's products.
Okay.
Grizzly bear, fist fight, sleep strips, anyone.
I mean, it seems like some brands think that masculinity requires aggressive imagery
Yeah.
and like cryptic names.
Mhm.
But even more perplexing, I think, is the lack of clarity when it comes to scent.
Yes.
Like extreme Arctic sport, hydra energetic. What do those even smell like?
I know. Give me sandalwood. Give me citrus any day.
Right.
Why all the mystery?
Seriously. And then there's the case of dude wipes,
Yes, the specialized wipes marketed specifically for men.
even though they're essentially the same as generic wet wipes.
Right, but with a much higher price tag.
Oh, for sure.
And one commenter shared how during the great toilet paper shortage of 2020, dude wipes were the only option left at his workplace.
Oh, my God.
It's hilarious, but it makes you wonder about targeted marketing and perceived gendered needs.
Yeah. Do men really need different wipes than everyone else?
Right, exact.
Seems like a classic example of a manufactured need.
Yes. All right, this next one really hit home for me.
Okay.
It's the great shirt size conundrum.
Tell me about it. Why is it so hard to find a shirt that fits both your chest and your torso?
I know. It's like
Yeah.
they get wider but not longer as the sizes increase. And the sleeve lengths never seem to match up. One guy described trying on a shirt that fit his chest, but the sleeves ended halfway up his forearms.
Oh, yeah. I've been there.
It's like playing sartorial guessing game.
Totally.
Are the sleeves going to be too short, too long, or just right?
Yeah.
And don't even get me started on the inconsistent detail grading.
Oh, yeah.
Hmm?
Like, what's up with the collars and pockets staying the same size, no matter what size the shirt is?
Yeah.
It creates some really odd proportions.
It's like they're designing for a cardboard cutout instead of a real human body.
I know.
Speaking of design choices that boggle the mind,
Okay.
let's venture into the retail landscape
Okay.
and explore the shrinking men's section.
The shrinking men's section. This observation really resonated with me. It does seem like men's clothing sections are consistently smaller than women's,
Right.
often relegated to like the back of the store or tucked away in a basement.
Commenters described feeling like their options were limited, almost like an afterthought. Is this simply a reflection of the perceived lack of variety in men's clothing?
Maybe. Or is there a deeper reason? It raises some questions about retail priorities and how men's fashion is perceived.
Interesting.
Maybe it's time to challenge the assumption that men are less interested in fashion or that they don't need as much variety.
I'm all for that.
Good.
All right, speaking of limited variety, let's tackle the monochromatic workout wardrobe.
Okay. The world of men's gym clothes, where black, gray, and navy reign supreme.
One commenter hilariously compared men's gym clothes to 2012 Call of Duty gun skins.
It's so true.
It's like a sea of drabness. Meanwhile, women have a rainbow of colors and patterns to choose from.
Right.
Why are men's options so boring?
I think it could be a reflection of traditional ideas about masculinity and what colors are considered acceptable for men to wear.
It's like this unspoken rule that men shouldn't be too flashy or attention-grabbing.
Right.
But like, why not? Color can be expressive and fun.
Totally.
All right, now this next one is a real head-scratcher.
Okay.
The case of the missing mirrors. Interesting.
One commenter shared a story about a middle school with no mirrors in the boys' bathrooms.
What?
And apparently the administration thought that girls were less likely to break them.
Oh my gosh. Can you believe that?
It's like a blatant example of gender bias.
Cool.
It sends such a strange message to young boys.
Right, like reinforces the idea that men's appearances don't matter as much as women's.
Right.
It's so weird.
Thankfully, a teacher at the school advocated for equal access.
Good for that teacher.
And they eventually installed a mirror outside the bathroom, but under CCTV surveillance.
Wow,
Small victory, but a victory nonetheless.
totally. It just highlights how even some seemingly small details can perpetuate gender stereotypes.
Yeah. And this brings us to another area where men often face limited options. The eternal wedding ring dilemma.
Uh-huh.
It seems like it's either a plain band or something incredibly extravagant.
Yeah.
One commenter expressed his desire for something more creative beyond the typical metals, wood, or wafered skulls. I mean, it's a valid point.
Yeah.
Why should men's wedding rings be limited to such a narrow range of styles?
Right. There's a whole world of possibilities out there.
For sure.
It seems like there's a real opportunity to explore more unique and personalized designs for men's wedding rings.
Yeah.
And speaking of design choices that prioritize aesthetics over functionality,
All right, let's talk about it.
let's delve into the perils of slippery dress shoes.
Yes, the infamous suicide shoes.
I know. It's amazing how some dress shoes can be so stylish,
Right.
but yet so treacherous on icy surfaces.
It's interesting someone pointed out that men's dress shoes were originally designed for like the idle nobility who didn't exactly need practical footwear for their daily routines.
Right. It's fascinating how historical context can shed light on modern design choices.
Totally.
But in today's world, we need shoes that can handle a little bit of everything.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, and finally we come to a question that has puzzled many.
Okay.
The mystery of the top tube
The top two.
on bikes. Why do men's bikes have that top tube that can be so uncomfortable?
Right.
Especially when women's bikes have adapted designs to accommodate skirts.
Yeah. Why is that?
It's a great question.
I know.
And one commenter suggested that step-through bikes, often marketed as women's bikes,
Yeah.
are actually more comfortable and practical for everyone.
Hmm.
You know, it makes you wonder why we even have these rigid gender categories for bikes in the first place.
Wow.
Why not just design bikes that are comfortable and functional for all?
It's a perfect example of how outdated gender stereotypes can limit design choices and create unnecessary barriers.
So if we look at all of these fashion mysteries, What does it tell us about how men's needs and preferences are being considered in design and marketing?
Yeah, it seems like there's often a disconnect between what men actually want and need
Yeah,
and what designers and marketers assume they want.
it's very interesting.
Yeah. And that brings us to a crucial question. It seems like there's a real opportunity to rethink how we approach men's fashion.
Right.
What if instead of perpetuating these limiting assumptions, we started designing and marketing with men's actual needs and preferences in mind?
Yeah, it's like we've been stuck in this outdated idea of what masculine fashion should be, and it's time to break free.
Yeah, and to your point earlier about the textiles and suits,
Oh, yeah.
think about the potential.
Okay.
Like imagine suits made from high-tech performance fabrics,
Okay.
designed for breathability and comfort without sacrificing style,
Now that would be a game changer.
right?
No more sweating through important meetings or weddings.
Yeah.
And maybe, just maybe, we could finally get rid of those absurd sports surf California shorts.
Yeah, we can hope,
Yeah.
right? Maybe we'll see a rise in minimalist, functional designs
Yeah.
that prioritize quality and comfort over flashy logos and nonsensical branding.
Reading through this Reddit thread, it struck me how many of these frustrations stem from a lack of choice. It's like
Yeah.
men are being told, this is what you get, take it or leave it.
Yeah, that's a great observation. It suggests a need for more diversity and inclusivity in men's fashion.
Right. And not just in terms of sizes and styles,
Yeah.
but also in terms of colors, patterns, and overall aesthetics.
Imagine a world where men's gym clothes weren't limited to a handful of drab colors,
I would love that.
right? What if there were options for bolder patterns, brighter hues?
It would be so refreshing to see men embrace more color and personality in their workout attire.
I think so too.
Yeah.
And think about the potential impact on self-expression.
Mm.
Like if we break free from these rigid color norms, maybe men will feel more comfortable expressing themselves in other areas of their lives as well.
That's a really powerful thought. It's almost like these seemingly superficial fashion choices can actually reflect deeper societal attitudes about masculinity.
I think that's true.
Yeah.
The way we dress can be a powerful form of self-expression.
Right.
And when men are limited in their choices, it can send a message that their individuality doesn't matter as much.
It's interesting how something as simple as the case of the missing mirrors ties into this idea.
Hmm.
If we're telling boys from a young age that their appearance isn't as important as girls' appearances, what message does that send?
Right. It reinforces this idea that men shouldn't be too concerned with how they look,
Mm.
which can lead to a lack of self-awareness
Mm.
and even a devaluation of their own needs and preferences.
Right. It's like society is saying men should just focus on being strong and stoic, not on expressing themselves or taking care of their appearance.
That's a good point. And that kind of brings us back to the eternal wedding ring dilemma.
Oh, yeah.
If men are only given a limited range of options for something as personal and meaningful as a wedding ring,
Right.
it can feel like their individuality is being stifled.
Why should women have all the fun when it comes to expressing themselves through jewelry?
Totally. And then when we look at the perils of slippery dress shoes,
Mm-hmm.
it's almost like functionality and safety are being sacrificed for the sake of maintaining a certain image of masculinity.
It's like those shoes are a metaphor for the pressure men feel to conform to these outdated expectations,
Yeah.
even when it's uncomfortable or impractical.
Totally. And when we consider the mystery as a top tube on bikes,
Yeah.
it becomes clear that these rigid gender categories can actually limit everyone's choices.
Right. Why should comfort and practicality be sacrificed for the sake of maintaining these arbitrary distinctions between men's and women's bikes?
I know. It's a perfect example of how outdated gender stereotypes
Mm.
can hinder innovation and limit our options.
Hmm.
And, all these fashion mysteries we've been discussing,
Yeah.
they might just be the tip of the iceberg.
What do you mean?
Think about it. We've been talking about clothes, shoes, bikes, even toilet bowls.
Right.
But these issues extend far beyond fashion.
You're saying these restrictive norms and limiting assumptions affect other areas of men's lives as well.
Exactly. From healthcare to education to career choices.
Wow.
There are countless ways in which men's needs and preferences are often overlooked or dismissed.
So if we zoom out even further, what can we do to challenge these outdated norms and create a more inclusive world for men?
Well, first, I think it's crucial to acknowledge that these issues exist.
Okay.
By bringing them to light and having these open conversations,
Yeah.
we can raise awareness and start to chip away at those restrictive stereotypes.
It's funny. This whole conversation reminds me of a time when I was shopping for a suit with my brother.
Oh, yeah.
He was getting married, and we were in this high-end menswear store,
Uh,
surrounded by racks of suits
uh-huh.
in various shades of gray, navy, and black.
Sounds familiar.
Right. And my brother, who's always been a bit more adventurous with his style, turns to me and says, I wish they had some suits in like burgundy or emerald green, something with a bit more personality.
It's interesting. And what did the salesperson say?
The salesperson looked at him like he'd grown a second head.
Oh, no.
And she was like, oh, so those colors aren't really appropriate for a wedding. It's a very traditional occasion.
Wow. It sounds like she was more focused on enforcing those traditional norms
Right.
than helping your brother find a suit that really reflected his personal style.
Exactly. And it made me realize how much pressure there is for men to conform to these narrow expectations,
Yeah.
even for something as personal as their wedding day.
It's a perfect example of how these unspoken rules can stifle self-expression and limit our choices.
Yeah.
But you know what's really fascinating is that challenging these norms can actually be a source of empowerment.
In what way?
Think about it. When men break free from those restrictive expectations and embrace their individuality,
Uh-huh.
it can be incredibly liberating.
So by simply choosing to wear a burgundy suit or opting for brighter colors in their workout clothes,
Yeah.
men can make a statement about their personal style and challenge those outdated notions of masculinity.
Precisely. It's about reclaiming their agency and expressing themselves authentically without fear of judgment or ridicule,
I love that.
right? So if we were to distill all of these insights into some key takeaways for our listeners,
Yeah.
what would you say are the most important things for them to remember?
Well, first and foremost, I think it's essential to recognize that men's fashion doesn't have to be a mystery or a source of frustration.
Right.
It can be a powerful tool for self-expression, comfort, and confidence.
Right. And it's about challenging those limiting assumptions
Yeah,
and embracing the idea that there's no one right way to be a man or to dress like one.
absolutely. And remember, comfort and functionality are just as important as aesthetics.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid to prioritize your own needs and preferences, even if it means breaking with tradition.
So to all our listeners out there, we encourage you to take a look at your own fashion choices and ask yourself, what makes you feel good?
Yeah.
What reflects your unique personality?
Right.
What would you wear if you weren't limited by societal expectations?
Don't be afraid to experiment, to have fun, and to express your individuality through your personal style.
And remember, true style isn't about conforming to some arbitrary standard.
Yeah.
It's about being authentically you. Well said. And on that note, I think it's time to wrap up this deep dive into the fascinating world of men's fashion.
This is